Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of our Qbert series, and in this video, we'll focus on creating the animation blueprint to give a little more life to our character movement. Alright, let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Alright, so we're going to be creating a new folder starting off. This folder is going to be called Animation, or Anim. Inside this folder, we can right-click, go to Animation, and create an animation blueprint. I'm going to choose the Qbert skeleton. We're going to call it ABP_Qbert. Can open this up here. And the animation graph is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to add a state machine. My state machine is mainly just going to be idle animations, so I'm just going to title it idle. And then we're also going to be using animation montages, so I can show you both methods. So we're going to want to create a default slot so we can use our animation montages as well. And you'll just hook up the pins like so. Then we can double click on our animation idle or locomotion state. And then you'll notice on this skeleton rig, I have a few different idle animations. I'm going to drag out the first one, just call it idle. And if you only have the one idle animation, you just hook in the pin, hit compile, and then it's pretty much good to go. You may need to go into the actual animation itself and hit loop animation and then recompile. For this example, I'm going to be looping between many different idle animations, and then I'll just kind of create some circular logic for it. So drag this in here, call it idle 2. Call this one idle 3. This one will be idle 4. And idle 5. And I think I have one last one for idle 6. The remaining 2 are my jump animations. Alright, so I'm going to select all these and press Shift W to line them up. And I'll put 6 down a bit. And then it's just a matter of getting some connection pins, like so. And then dragging this back to our original idle. It's kind of like this. Now when you create these states, you're going to have these transition rules that show up, and that's going to drive the logic on when the actual animation switches between one animation from another. But I'll kind of get into that right now. So we can go into here, and the logic I'm going to use is just a function called time remaining, and we're going to use the one that's not ratio, so it's basically just a float value. I can come off that float value into a less equal, and I'm just going to use a real small time remaining, like 0.2, and then I'll allow it to enter the transition when the previous animation only has 0.2 seconds remaining, basically. And then I'm also going to copy this node, because we're going to basically repeat this logic for all the various transition rules here. So again, time remaining. And then I'll paste in and hook up the float values and then the boolean. And then we'll go back and go into the next one. Time remaining. Paste in, hook these up, just like so. And make sure not to choose the ratio one. Alright, last 2. Time remaining. Paste. And one more. Oops. Alright, so now we can come back to the graph and hit compile, and you can see the logic driven. Plays our first idle, and then it'll transition into the various idle animations that I created inside Blender. So pretty straightforward. Now for the jump animation, I'm going to actually do that through an animation montage, but realistically you could actually drive that logic inside your state machine as well. You would just then code the logic to execute in the event graph of the animation blueprint, but I'm doing it through a montage just to show you guys that you can do it multiple different ways, so don't feel like you have to do it one particular way. But alright, let's go back here, and inside the Blender folder you can see my various animations. I got 2 jumps, so we got this one here, and I think I'm going to use the other one. Yeah, this one seems a bit fun. So what we can do is right click, go to create, and then create animation montage. I'll call it am_Qbert jump. And then I'm just going to drag this into my anim folder and do move. So now I have my animation blueprint and my montage ready to go. So now if I go into Qbert, oops, actually I have to go into my blueprints, open Qbert up, and we have our movement component here. I can then go into the anim class and choose the ABP Qbert that we created. And then if we go back to the animation blueprint and hit compile, you'll notice Qbert kind of comes to life and we'll start cycling through those idle animations. Now for the jump, we set up our movement code in the last video. I think it makes the most sense to perform the jump right after we rotate the character. So we can come off the mesh and do play montage. And we can hook this up here. And then for the montage to play, this skeleton only has 1 because we only created 1. And then the play rate, that jump was a little bit slow, so I'm going to double the play rate to 2. And then we just need to Control D to duplicate this node out. Hook up the execution pins. Don't forget to hook up your mesh reference. Control D. Hook this up here. And then Control D again. Hooking up the mesh component and our execution pins, like so. So now we have our movement code pretty much done. We can compile and save. And we can go back to the map. And now you can see Qbert is idling pretty well. He's just cycling through. And no matter where Qbert is in the animation state, you can actually begin the jump cycle. And then he will actually do the jump. He'll pause the animation state for the idles. And then when you stop jumping, we'll go right back into basically his idle states. Like so. Alright, good people, this concludes part 2 of this series. In the next video, we'll tackle the platform blocks and create our first Qbert map. But as always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and see you on the next one.